Personal injury lawyers, how much should you be paying to bring a new client into your law firm? It is arguably the most important metric when it comes to growing your business, and I audit 10 personal injury law firms a week, and very, very few of you can answer that question. So what we're gonna do in this video is we're gonna dive into a chart where I have all the different lead sources, all the different cost per lead, and what the cost per acquisition or cost per signed case is depending on that traffic source. So let's take a look here. What I've got here again is a chart. I've got the lead generation tactic, the cost to engage in that tactic, the cost per lead, the conversion rate from lead into signed case, and then just a little simple chart here on the CPA, which stands for cost per action or the cost per signed case. So this is really, 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 really important information that, again, like I said, I talk to so many different injury lawyers on a weekly basis, and you're spending so much money, so much money on all these different things, and sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not, but a lot of the times you don't really know. You're just kind of like, look, at a rising tide raises all ships. I'm spending a lot of money, I'm making money, so therefore it must be working. But we talk about scaling in a brutally competitive market. You got to know your numbers. You have to know your numbers. So the way we know numbers is we set up proper tracking and analytics so we can see that. But generally speaking, let's just go through so you understand where your money could and should be going and what the cost of these different things is. So let's start with number one here, referrals. So referrals, the cost to engage, obviously minimal to none because referrals are coming in for free. You know, I like to say that a personal injury attorney comes to our agency and it's too soon for them to be working with an agency. I always tell them, like, you got to go out and figure out a way to build your referral base. It's going to raise the floor of your business because it's going to guarantee a certain level of income, right? Based on referrals. They're sporadic, they're unpredictable, I get it, but it's going to build the floor, which would then allow you to invest into other things to then continue to raise that floor up and up and up. So the cost to engage is free. The cost per lead is pretty much free. The lead to sale rate is extremely high because referrals close better than any different lead source because it's referrals coming in from a warm source, a trusted partner. The CPA is going to be the best. Now, of course, a lot of the times you're going to have to pay out referral fees, which you can just view as a marketing cost. That's going to depend on what that looks like, but referrals are great. But again, the problem with referrals is that they're few and far between, and they're very, very unpredictable. It's very difficult to scale a law firm just off of referrals. Now, the next three things here are what we call out-of-home advertising, OOH, television, radio, billboards, extremely expensive. The cost to engage in any of these vastly is going to depend on your market. So again, guys, keep in mind this chart is not going to be 100% accurate, but based on data that we've collected and the research that we've done, you know, we have clients that are doing all these. We've spoken to plenty of out-of-home advertising costs. We're in Miami, Florida, so the cost for this is much higher than if you're in Boise, Idaho. But TV is incredibly expensive. You know, you're looking at $5 to $20K a month. Radio, also expensive. Again, just depends on the market, depends on the station. Then billboards, also heavily dependent on where you're showing these billboards, which is going to also impact, of course, the impact of these different channels, right? If you're putting a billboard on a back road in Kentucky, no one's going to see it. So if you're paying $1, it doesn't really matter, right? Now, cost per lead, always high. You know, the thing about out-of-home advertising that's often misconstrued is that it's not really a lead generation tactic. It's much more of a nice-to-have brand tactic, right? I'm not a big fan of calling it top-of-mind awareness because if you go drive down I-95 here in Miami, you're going to see 1,000 personal injury billboards. You're not going to remember any of them. So this concept of like, oh, we're going to be top of mind when somebody gets in a car accident, maybe if you've been spending enough and doing it for long enough, but it's also not a direct lead generation tactic because unless somebody gets in a car accident right in front of your billboard, they're probably not going to call you when they get in a car accident directly, right? So it's very high because when we look at the cost of these, they're not necessarily coming directly off the billboards. It's coming off some other stuff. We'll talk more about that. So then the lead to sale is also pretty low just because of the number of leads that you're getting from them. And they're not targeted, you know? So like anybody can see a billboard or a radio or a TV. It's just based on who's in that area. So they're not targeted at all. So the quality of the lead is not necessarily the best. You're going to get a lot of tire kickers, people calling for general law firm, whatever. So the CPA is really bad here. It's actually the worst. But again, I don't take this as me kind of like dumping on these things because there's a time and a place for these. But to me, out-of-home advertising comes after you've squeezed all the juice out of the digital. So in order of operations, it would be referrals, digital marketing, out-of-home advertising, right? When you can afford to spend 50, 100K on billboards and not expect a direct return, then that's when you want to go into that tactic. Now, we've got digital here on the bottom. We've got SEO. This includes local SEO and traditional SEO. PPC, this includes PPC and LSAs, just search engine advertising, social media advertising, and then legal directories like Avvo and FindLaw. Now, this is where things start to get very interesting, right? Because, again, when I talk to a lot of personal injury law firms, there's always a bit of a confusion about which channel they should put their money in. Like PPC and SEO are always ones that are like, I don't know, because SEO takes a long time. PPC is very fast, but PPC is very expensive, and SEO is a little bit more cost effective. SEO scales a little bit better. So there's all different, weighing things. So let's go through these things here. So again, cost to engage SEO, $5,000 to $15,000 per month. Depends on who you talk to, but if you're a personal injury lawyer, even if you're in the least competitive markets, you're probably not going to be able to find a decent agency to do the work for you for less than $5,000 a month. It's just what I would never charge less than that for an injury. So when it comes to pay-per-click now, right, there's a monthly fee, but I broke this down per click just so you can see kind of the discrepancy. It's usually going to be on the higher end. The keywords that you want are going to be around $250 per click. Right? Social media advertising, $4,000 to $10,000 a month. That includes the advertising cost plus the agency fees if necessary. And then legal directories are going to be a little bit cheaper, $2,000 to $5,000 a month. We'll talk about all these now. So cost per lead when it comes to SEO, SEO is usually going to be the lowest. And that's because SEO scales so well. Now, of course, the biggest downside to SEO is one, time, two, are you even going to get results because the agency's probably lying to you and they probably stink at what they do. But the cost per lead is going to be the lowest, and it's going to go the lowest. I mean, I put this in here because I didn't want to have some stupid number like $10 in here, but we have some clients that are paying us $10,000 a month, but they're getting so many leads that the cost per lead is like $5 because they're just getting so much traffic. So, and there's no end to how much traffic that you can get if you're really good and you work with a good agency. So when it comes to PPC though, PPC, the cost per lead is going to be higher, right? So $250 on the low end if it's a lower cost per click. We usually see injury accident around like a $750 cost per lead. Now again, that could be high, that could be low. It really depends on your market, depends on what you're currently doing. Social media advertising, Facebook and Instagram, the cost per lead is always lower. We usually see an average in injury accident space around $200 per lead off Facebook. And then legal directories, $75 to $150. This is a crapshoot too. These are really low volume, which is why these are really tough. These legal directories don't get a ton of traffic. Most of the traffic they're getting is from Google, right? Somebody's searching for a personal injury lawyer near me. Avvo's ranking, they go to Avvo, they charge you for that top spot there. They're usually gonna lock you into like $5,000 a month, but they're giving you no information or data about how many clicks or how many calls you're gonna get. They're just kind of like, whatever happens, happens. So the cost per lead is usually pretty good. But again, it's just so kind of unreliable and unpredictable. But the quality of the lead is pretty good off of it as well because it's bottom funnel traffic. Now we talk about the quality of the lead, how many of these leads actually turn into sales. SEO is good but not great because, again, the more traffic that you get, kind of the lower the quality of the traffic it can get because you're creating more like top funnel content, right? Now when it comes to PPC, it's a better conversion rate because you're being very targeted with the keywords that you're going after. You're going after people that are looking to hire an attorney now. You're going to pay more for them, so the front end cost is going to be higher, but the conversion rate is generally better from PPC. Facebook ads, moderate conversion rate, but the cost per lead is so low that it makes sense. And we talked about this. So when we break all this stuff down, this is a lot to take in. This is a lot to look at. Again, when we talk about prioritizations, if I owned a personal injury law firm, what would I do? Again, one, start with referrals. I would be going to every injury, accident, car body shop, chiropractor. I would be kicking in doors. I would be door to door selling the crap out of my firm to build relationships, doing whatever it took to build referrals. That would be the first step. And if you're not doing that, you haven't realized that you're in a sales and marketing business yet, you're not in the legal space, you're going to find out soon enough. That's what I would do, number one. Number two is I would do social media advertising, number two. That's just me personally. Maybe I'm biased because I do so much and have so much success on social media advertising, but because there's so much less competition there and their costs are so much lower, you can have good success on social media. Plus, I just believe that people check social media 1,000 times a day, and that's where people live their lives. So when we talk about lead generation and brand recognition, it's happening on Instagram, accept it for what it is. So that's what I would do, number two. Then I would move into SEO, right? SEO specifically. Now, of course, this is a long-term investment, so we want to make sure that we have revenue coming in to push into that, so we can afford to pay $5,000, $10,000 a month in SEO costs while the traffic picks up. Then I would move into LSAs and PPC. Then I would go into out of home, and then I would go into legal directory. I'm not very big on legal directory. So that's a breakdown of the cost for what it takes to acquire a lead in a case. If you're a personal injury law firm, if you want help with any of this stuff, we can do all this stuff for you. Soup to nuts, right? Again, except for referrals. I'm not going to go out and do the sales for you. And out of home. Digital stuff is what we'll do for you, better speaking. But just for more context too, just take it for what it is. If I were you, right, like understand where you are in your business's journey. If you're in the beginning, I would do social media ads. If you're, years in the game, you've had success, and I'll start to do SEO and PPC. But really, all these digital tactics are going to be money makers for you if they're executed right. So if you need help with this, there's a link below. It'll take you directly to my calendar. We'll have a talk about your law firm, what you're currently doing for marketing, and how we can help generate some leads at a very affordable cost. Hit the link below. We'll talk soon. Hey, Ryan here. Hope you liked that video. If you want more, check out these two videos right here on the screen.